here you go. This is Emily C., my new bestie.
I hate the idea that someone out there hates me. I even hate thinking that Al-Qaeda hates me. I think if they got to know me, they wouldn't hate me.
This stole the show. Emily C. was phenomenal.
There's something you need to know.
What?
You're doing great.
Look at my baby. There she is. Emily. 10 out of 10. Huge fan.
I see Emily C says 123. I trust her. She's really good.
Listen, Turtle. You gotta watch your language. I'm already live. So you need to follow the FCC guidelines.
He destroyed, left nothing in her path. It was so good.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be doing this. I'm Emily C. You might know me as Adam Lally or Jen McCabe or John DePietro, but today I'm just me, and today I am presenting my dissertation to you. This has been something that has been in my head, like floating around and driving me a little bit crazy every single time that anybody talks about the Karen Read trials. And I am so thrilled to finally have this chance to get all these ideas that have been floating around in my head out there to you today. This is the chat looks different. That's funny. This is my first solo show in a while, and that makes me panic a little bit, but I'm genuinely too excited about this topic to even get too far into my head. I literally prepared for this stream like I was like a high schooler making like my final presentation to the class or something. I haven't actually gone through it from start to finish. I've just been like adding things into my little slideshow as I go. So this might just be part one because there's so many lies that just went completely unchecked throughout both trials. And something about me is that like lying really gets under my skin. I feel like that's maybe just a human thing, but it's hard for me to lie. Like I get very uncomfortable even telling like little white lies. And I don't like when I know that somebody is lying to me. And that is what the entire testimony from all of the Massachusetts State Police officers, all of the House defendants, everything that they said about the snow, for the most part, was a lie. And I'm going to prove it to you. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And thank you for the reminder to take a deep breath. I've had a lot of coffee, not a lot of water, and I'm really fired up about this. Also, side note, I spent this morning with my little baby nephew, Oliver, and there's like something about being with a baby that's just like, I want to make the world a perfect place for you. I got to feed him and hold him, and he's just a little angel, and I don't like the idea of him growing up in a world where police officers can just get away with lying to us. And so if there's something that I can do about that, I want to. Before I get started, I would like to introduce you to the new sea creatures with their bows. They're wearing bows because Jimmy made fun of my bow on Runkle's stream. So I'm doubling down, and now everybody has a bow, except for me right now because I'm all over the place. But I would love to know how you all are feeling today. So if you feel comfortable sharing in the chat how you're feeling today and why, I would love to know. I feel very, very excited. I feel a little bit confused why the police think it's okay to just lie to us. And I don't feel peaceful, but I'd like to by the end of this. Maybe once these ideas get out of my head, into your head, and then you do with them what you will. Oh, I'm happy. I'm so happy you guys are here. I love this little, like, I'm starting to see kind of like all the same people every time that we do this. And like, you guys are genuinely the best. I'm obsessed. Okay. Time for my presentation, my dissertation. I don't exactly know how to start this, but let's just get into it. This is the only way I could figure out how to make the slideshow like show and have the videos play. I'm already messing this up. So sorry that you have to deal with that like little bar at the top. That's the best I could do. Okay. There are kind of three parts to the way that we were all lied to. There were lies about the snow during the actual event, which I'm going to classify as January 29th from midnight to 6:30 a.m. So the time from Karen and John arriving at 34 Fairview, the incident that happened to John inside 34 Fairview, and then going back to discover his body. That's stage one, the event. Stage two is the investigation, which I'm calling from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., even though really like the lies are all between 5 and 6 because there really was no other investigation happening. And then stage three is the aftermath. So from January 30th, the day after the CERT team finds the first few pieces of taillight, until February 18th, when Proctor finds the last pieces of taillight. Okay. Part of what really kind of like gets me fired up about this is that there were a lot of lies that came out during the trial that were then checked and corrected. So there was the time that Karen's car was seized from her parents' house, and Proctor wrote that it was 5:30, and then really it was 4:16, and then that lie was corrected. But these lies about the snow were just left completely unchecked, as evidenced by the fact that all of these documentaries start something like this. Okay, could you hear that? Hopefully, because if not, then I don't know what I'm doing here. But the documentary says it all began in the middle of a record-breaking nor'easter. No sound. Oh no. Okay, hold on. How do I fix that? You guys, I don't know how to fix that. Okay, give me a second, because we need the sound for this. How do I fix that? Stop screen. Okay, bear with me because I literally don't know how to fix that. Window. Also share system audio. Got it. Okay. Got it. Let's try that again. Okay, tell me if you can hear this.
It all begins in the middle of a record-breaking nor'easter.
We can hear that? Yay, yes. Yeah, okay. So what they say at the very beginning of that Karen Read the Verdict documentary, whatever, is it all began in the middle of a record-breaking nor'easter. I want you to like picture what you think of as the middle. Like when I think of a sandwich and there's something in the middle of the sandwich, I'm not thinking about the bread, correct? Okay. Well, the middle of a record-breaking nor'easter to me would be the stuff in the middle of the bread. The record-breaking nor'easter had not started yet when Karen dropped John off at 34 Fairview and went home. So that's annoying. It's just a lie that was completely left unchecked. Oh, we're still on the same slide. Okay, how do we do this? Okay, this lie was, and this is like my introduction. If we were doing this as like a high school presentation, so this is kind of like why I'm so fired up about it, and then we're going to get into the actual lies. This lie was left so unchecked that even in this disgusting man's redemption tour, he's still repeating the same lies over and over, which is this.
Of the witnesses in the case. Very early on, Alan Jackson told me that he could not understand why it was that every time that you went back to the scene, new evidence would materialize. He found that very suspicious.
Me too.
Maybe you didn't read the weather report I provided in my report.
So maybe he didn't read the weather report. We're going to do that.
Reports.
Which indicated?
Over the next week to 2 weeks, temperatures range from 30 to 60 degrees with heavy rain, snow melt at a rapid pace. And the more snow that melted, the more evidence unearthed itself.
Okay, cool. So maybe Alan Jackson was just like so confused because he didn't read the weather report. So we'll do that. Oh no. Why can't I just do this normally? Bye-bye. So this is my backstory of why I got so obsessed with this. I don't know about you guys, but when I start to hear the same kind of like dates in a trial over and over again, I just start, it's like you hear like your birthday or you hear your friend's birthday or you hear a date that was important and you're like, oh, I know exactly where I was that day. And it just so happens that I live 10 minutes from 34 Fairview, basically directly in between 34 Fairview and the Dedham Courthouse. So I started going back through my camera roll to be like, I wonder what I was doing during this time. Like, oh, that would have been funny if I had been like driving by 34 Fairview or something. I don't know what I was looking for. But I just so happened to go into my Instagram archives and I had taken this video on January 29th, 2022 at 6:42 a.m., which just so happens to be the time that Michael Proctor got a phone call about what was happening over at 34 Fairview. So he goes on to say that it took him a while to shovel out his car, and that's why he couldn't get over to Canton Police Department until after 8 o'clock, which is 3 minutes from his house. So let's see what the snow was like at 6:42 a.m. when he got his call and could not shovel out fast enough. Yeah, that's the ground. A little bit of nice white fluffy snow. Let's watch that again. And notice that I happened to write, had to get out before getting snowed in. Because contrary to what Matt Gutman said, it was not the middle of this monumental blizzard yet. It actually hadn't started. And at that moment, John was already in the ambulance being checked into Good Samaritan Hospital. Okay. So then I was like, this is weird. I was teaching kindergarten at the time. And for those of you who are from like a snowy area, you'll know there are a lot of times that there's like a very big snowstorm on a Saturday, and it's so like debilitating for the city that even with snow crews working around the clock Saturday, Sunday, school is still closed on Monday because there's still cleanup that needs to be done. But no, we had school on Monday, and I just so happened to teach my kindergartners that day a lesson about snow melting. So we brought the snow inside and we watched the snow melt, and just thought that was a helpful little tidbit to put in there because snow does melt. In fact, when it snows and the Patriots have a game, they bring in these big like heat lamps to melt all the snow on the field so that the Patriots can play. So it's almost like they could have just melted the snow if they really wanted to. But I guess they didn't have a great kindergarten teacher to teach them that. Another thing that I just want to point out to frame all of this, if you are not from, if you're lucky enough to live somewhere that's warm and you don't get a ton of snow, when snow starts to melt, it becomes kind of like translucent, transparent. You can see through it. You start to be able to see the grass through it. So even when they say like they were waiting for the snow to melt, you can see in this picture like a little leaf and grass poking up. You didn't need all of the snow to melt to be able to see what was underneath it. The other thing that really got me like hooked on this lie is I went into my Google Photos, and it turns out like metadata is actually very helpful. I know like Colin didn't love metadata for his fake text message screenshot, but I have the metadata from this picture of my son on February 9th, 2022, where there is no snow. This picture from February 12th, where there is no snow. And this picture from February 17th, the day before Michael Proctor finds the last piece of taillight, where my 1.5-year-old is literally outside in shorts and a t-shirt because it was that warm and there was no snow. And I don't think I've put it in here. I should have, but there was, hang on just a second. There's one more thing I needed to put. There was 2 additional snowstorms in the middle of all of this. So it did snow again, but not snow from this original snowstorm. It snowed on, hold on. So more Instagram receipts. It did snow on February 13th. And I just saw somebody say in South Carolina, where did that go? In the South, it shuts the whole state down. And I literally said on February 13th, 2022, I wish I lived somewhere where 4 inches of snow was a snow day. So it did snow more, but that was after the original snow melted. Okay, back to the presentation. Or not. Back to me. Hello, everybody. Didn't mean to do that. There I am. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the event. And this entire presentation is basically going to be like a trial channel commercial, because this would have all been impossible without the trial channel, and was so easy to find all of these clips because of the trial channel. And always time to break for the fact that, yes, he's so cute. And for parents out there, I don't know if you have this feeling where it's like, I look at pictures of him when he was 1.5, now he's 5, and I like don't recognize that person. And it's so fun to look back and just see how cute he was. Okay. So first, we're going to check in with meteorologist Gilman, who was kind of like the biggest self-own hold this thought, though wasn't the phone found under John O'Keefe, where I allowed myself 2 tangents in my slideshow, and one of them has to do with that. Okay, so like the biggest cell phone for the Commonwealth was having this adorable man testify, because let's hear what he had to say about the snow during this time period of the event. So January 29th, 2022, from midnight to 6:30 a.m.
Snowfall began late in the evening on the 28th and continued into the 29th.
Just starting with that snapshot of the evening of the 28th, how much snow accumulated on the 28th before turning the page to the 29th?
Very little. Enough to track a cat, 0.2 of an inch.
0.2 of an inch.
Now, with reference to the 29th, were you able to determine from that data sort of the hourly snowfall as it came down?
Yes, as the hourly precipitation data, temperature, and other information was reported, I was able to analyze it each step of the way as the storm progressed.
And from your analysis, sir, could you describe to the jury, sort of going bit by bit, what was that hourly snowfall for the 29th?
As I said in the report, it's estimated that as it began, it was on the order of 0.3 of an inch an hour on the 29th until 1 o'clock. And it stayed in that light range. And anything under an inch an hour of accumulation is termed light snowfall. So that by...
Okay. Somebody also just asked what was the temperature. I have to double check that, but I believe it got down to 18, which if you are from a cold weather place, you know the colder that it is, the like lighter and fluffier the snow is, because there's less water in the clouds. And I'm not a meteorologist, so that might have just been wrong. But basically, like when it snows and it's 36 degrees, you get this really kind of like wet, heavy snow. And then the colder that it is, the lighter, powderier, easier to clean off your car the snow gets. So basically what Robert Gilman just told us is that from the time that Karen dropped John off until the time that his body was discovered, there was 3.9 inches of snow that accumulated. Okay.
Now, regard to the home when you get there, what did you do when you got there?
Well, I was kind of being a smart ass, and I dropped the plow and I did a little sweep of the driveway. And then I got out of the driveway because I didn't want to get blocked in, and I parked.
And do you recall where you parked in relation to the house?
I do, by the mailbox.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could.
I feel like there was something else in that clip I wanted to show, but before we get there, let's just highlight the fact that there was a teeny tiny dusting of snow on the ground. So no, Brian Higgins, you were not being a smartass and plowing the driveway because you couldn't, because there was no snow.
Published what's been marked as Exhibit 72.
Okay.
And Mr. Higgins, do you recognize what's printed up on the screen there?
I do.
And then Adam Lally does this real sketchy thing where he shows a picture of 34 Fairview with a ton of snow in front of it, just to kind of like put it in the juror's mind that what Brian Higgins did was a normal thing to do. This was manipulative. Hold just a second. I just want to see. Oh no. Thoughts so far while I'm trying to figure that out. Okay. Then he tells a whole bunch of lies about where he parked. Okay. Now, since that lie was left unchecked,
when you talked to Brian Higgins, did you ask Brian Higgins about potentially seeing John's body when he left 34 Fairview and headed over to Canton PD?
Yes, I did.
You knew that at that time, say 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, there was about 0.2 of an inch of dusting of snow, correct? Very light.
At that point in time, there was a coating. I cannot speak to the amount of snow that was on the ground.
But Brian Higgins told you in that interview that he didn't see a body because it was hidden on a snowbank.
Yes.
Did he say that to you?
I don't have a memory of that, Your Honor.
Yes.
Take a look at page 3. There's a highlighted portion. Do you mind? May I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that Brian Higgins said something about a snowbank at the time when he left 34 Fairview?
He stated the reason he did not pay attention to the grass is he was concerned with his snowplow on his vehicle and was not paying attention to anything over the snowbank, just with the plow in front of him as he operated the vehicle.
And of course, you knew at the time, as a detective and an investigator, you knew at the time.
okay. So Brian Higgins told the police in his interview that he did not see John's body, which was there because Karen hit him, because the snowbank was blocking him and he could not see anything over the snowbank. To not be able to see something over a snowbank from a Jeep, the snowbank would need to be like 10 feet tall. And once again, at that time, there was less than an inch of snow.
When you talk to
Now, still within this time period of the event, let's hear what Kerry has to say.
Back to the spot where John was lying when you first saw him.
When they lifted him up, there was grass underneath him and I could see his phone. So I went over and picked up the phone and the 2 baby blankets that were left on the ground.
So let me ask you, when you went back to where John was lying on the ground, you said you saw grass. There was not snow under him?
No, there was not.
Was there many inches of snow around that area?
Yes.
But none where he was lying under him?
Now, I think it's important because I have a lot of thoughts, questions, I guess, about Kerry in general. I think probably a bunch of you do. But think about what she's saying there. Imagine that you left like a sled outside on your front yard and then it started to snow and the sled kind of like collected all the snow that fell. And when you moved the sled, then there was like a divot where there was grass underneath, but then all around you kind of were able to see how much snow fell because that sled left an indentation. That's not what happened here. In fact, it is so far removed from what happened here that a ton of the testimony was spent talking about how nobody actually really knew where John's body was because it was impossible to tell, because there was no divot, there is no grass. And to be very clear, from the time that Carrie described that until this moment that Gallagher is out with his super handy leaf blower, 1 inch of snow has fallen. So it's not like a ton of snow just dumped down. This is the time period that I was out for that walk. Okay, more from Carrie.
You said you picked up a couple of items.
Yes.
Could you repeat that again, what you picked up?
I picked up John's phone and 2 blankets, the blankets that I had Jen get out of the car.
What did you do with John's phone when you picked it up from the ground?
I put it in my pocket and gave it to a first responder when they came over, or I handed it off to a first responder.
And the blankets you picked up, were they in the ground area or on snow as well?
They were, I don't remember.
Okay. How long after you put the phone in your pocket, do you remember when you gave it to a first responder, how long you had it for?
I don't remember.
Do you remember the time that you picked up the phone?
Okay, this is the one tangent, one of 2 tangents that I'm going to allow myself during this, because this is the dash cam video of Carrie picking up the blanket. And I think this was really important for me to kind of like reframe trying to figure out what actually happened, because John's phone is not under him. I want you to think for a second, if you walked over to where there was a phone laying on the ground that like could have answers to what just happened to your friend, and there were also 2 blankets, would you pay attention to the phone or the blankets first? Because I would look at the phone first. I would want to see, like, is the phone cracked? Are there text messages on it that can help me understand what happened? I would be looking at the phone. I'm like nosy, and like it's someone's phone, I would just look at it. This is the moment that Carrie picks up the phone. And it's hard to see because of course, but here she is, shaking out a blanket, and walking away with the blanket, shaking out the blanket some more. Her hands never went near her pockets. This is zoomed in, which is very blurry still. We don't see the light from a phone. And the time there is 6:15. John's phone doesn't start registering steps until 6:21. And I could do an entire like separate video about John. That's another thing. Or I wouldn't have touched the phone at all because it's evidence, and I would have said, hey, come here, over here, there's a phone. Neither of those things happened. But she says she picked up the phone, so we're going to go with that story. I could do an entire like separate deep dive just on this moment, but John's phone doesn't start registering steps until 6:21. And if you match up the number of steps that it's getting at that time versus what we see in the dash cam video, Carrie, who says that she's holding the phone, is that right? Well, either way, it's not 6:15. I thought it was 6:21 what I was looking at. I trust Olivia over everybody. So John's phone starts registering steps at 6:03. Oh, yes. that makes sense. And then people were trying to say, oh, it was because they were doing CPR like on him. Either way, if you match it up with what Carrie is doing on the dash cam at that time, John's phone is getting a ton more steps than what Carrie is doing in that moment. And that was just helpful for me to kind of like reframe figuring out. I'm never going to get to the answers because I don't have all the information. I was lied to. But it made things make a ton more sense if I didn't have to account for the fact that John's phone was laying on the front yard underneath him. Okay. That's tangent number 1. Back to the snow. Any questions or anything that I can answer before we move on? So many questions. Okay, the investigation. So now we're going to classify this time of the investigation as 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., even though really the only like investigating happened basically from like 5:41 to 5:46. Olivia said 6:04:01 a.m. steps start registering on John's phone. Great. Still doesn't match up with when Carrie picked it up. And see, that's what the Mass State Police are supposed to do when they find out new information. Instead of perpetuating a lie, just correct yourself. Take notes, people. Okay, back to Mr. Gilman, the biggest self-own that the Commonwealth could have possibly done.
Another inch, and then by 6 a.m. with another 1.2 inches.
If I could stop you there just for one moment, Mr. Gilman. So from the time period from when the storm began on the 28th to the time period of 6 a.m. on the 29th, how much in total snowfall had accumulated at that point?
I believe that was, do my arithmetic.
I love when he does his arithmetic.
3.9 inches up to 6 a.m.
And I'm sorry, sir, if you could continue now going forward from 6 a.m. on the 29th.
Then we started getting into a more moderate snowfall. And again, that's an inch an hour more. So that by 7 o'clock was another inch and a half. By 8 o'clock, another inch 0.1. And then by 9 and 10 o'clock, it was getting to be moderate to heavy snowfall based on radar returns and X-rad radar information, based on the visibility reduction, based on the amount of precipitation that was melted in the rain gauges, based on other reports from cooperative observers. So that's on the order of an inch and a half an hour of intensity. And that continued through the middle of the day, rapidly accumulating on the ground. And it accumulated at even 2 inches an hour.
So basically it snowed all day at a time that really didn't or shouldn't have impacted the investigation at all, because they could have just gone into the house where it was warm and not snowing. But they didn't. Okay. I don't know why I have to keep doing this. Doo-doo. Actually, Olivia, do you have the exact time that Gallagher was doing this? That was something that I meant to add and completely forgot, but I want to say it's like 8 o'clock. Okay, that noise is annoying, but clearly, there's not grass there. So I would love to know why Carrie lied about that. I hope someday we find out. But there was not grass underneath John. Now, from the handy dandy leaf blower, this is going to drive me crazy. How do I get rid of that? Now it's all sideways. Talk amongst yourselves for a second while I annoy myself. How do I get rid of this? No idea. Okay, well, his handy dandy leaf blower work was actually like, I think it wasn't terrible because he really did find a lot of important things. Like, oh, I did it, yay. Like the cocktail glass. So he did not find 47 pieces of red taillight, but he was able to find those droplets of blood that are the same color as the taillight and a clear cocktail glass. Great, good investigation. That's actually, I don't hate it. All of the pictures look like they were taken on a potato, but we can even from the potato picture see the droplets of blood.
As they were excavating.
Now we get into the real, like, this is when the true lies really start. So Tully is out with, just to set the scene, Tully is out with the CERT team. We know now that Karen's car is in the custody of the Massachusetts State Police. They've had it in the Sallyport now. And I would like for you to listen with the framing that when there were 4 inches of snow, Gallagher did not find any of this.
A snowbank in front of it, we realized that the snowbank protruded about 3 feet into the roadway. So as they were moving this first part of the snowbank, we're essentially shoveling the road. And so as they continued on there, they would then hit the curb area.
And as far as beyond the curb area, as far as grass or the front lawn, was the CERT team members, from your observations, able to go beyond the curb into the front lawn area?
No, they're having difficulty shoveling with plastic snow shovels onto the lawn, from the lawn.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Okay. I need to make it clear what Tully just said. So what this man just explained to you is that he and the other CERT team members were using plastic shovels and they were shoveling snow that was in the road. So now the snow has fallen. This is later in the day. There was a storm. The plows have been going back and forth. And when the plows go by, they kind of like push the snow up to the curb so that the cars can drive and they're not really concerned with like what's happening on the curb. So he is shoveling snow that they like don't really realize is in the road, which also that alone doesn't make sense. But suddenly they realize like, oh my goodness, we're shoveling with our plastic shovels and we're in the road. We got to the curb. We are here in the road. And then Lally asks, did you go beyond the curb into the grass? And he says, no, our plastic shovels weren't really good for that. So the same snow that was here, that they could shovel with their plastic shovels, they cannot shovel here because their shovels are plastic. I just think it's important to hear that lie again. Oh no, or not. It did the thing again.
As they were excavating this snowbank in front of it, we realized that the snowbank protruded about 3 feet into the roadway. So as they were moving this first part of the snowbank, we're essentially shoveling the road. And so as they continued on there, they would then hit the curb area.
And as far as beyond the curb area, as far as grass or the front lawn, was the CERT team members, from your observations, able to go beyond the curb into the front lawn area?
No, they're having difficulty shoveling with plastic snow shovels onto the lawn, from the lawn.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Oh.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so according to their very detailed maps, which are obviously so helpful, the first pieces of evidence that were found that night with the CERT team were found in the road. And then every other piece of evidence was found on the lawn. That's just something important to keep in mind. Why they even made this map over here is beyond me, because that's just not even a little bit helpful. But this little blob of words does say sneaker, plastic 1, plastic 2. And in that picture, they are identified as being found on the lawn. Tully just told us they were on the street. He got confused where he put them.
And what do you recognize that to be?
The front of 34 Fairview Road in Canton and the flagpole I previously mentioned.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, just direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed in this exhibit.
So this picture was taken to memorialize this piece of red plastic here.
And again, Lieutenant, do you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 114?
Yes.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed there.
It's that same previously mentioned red plastic. The purposes of the multiple photographs, I'll take one as overalls, and as I get closer, I'll take more photographs to get better context.
And these photographs of these items, were they taken, the items that you're photographing, were they moved in any way prior to you memorializing them with photographs?
Yes, this piece in particular, a CERT team member, as he was removing the snow with the shovel, had picked up this piece of plastic with it. I asked him to place it back where he found it, where it approximately was, so that I could memorialize it.
Okay, so that is approximately where that taillight was. They put it right back where they found it. Okay, so that is on the top of a snowbank. That is a snowbank. Paging Brian Higgins. So this is a snowbank, and that piece of taillight is on the top of a snowbank. And the CERT team member who found it put it back so that they could take that photograph. So that piece of taillight was found on the top of a couple feet of snow. Okay. But was not found by Gallagher with his leaf blower when there was only a little tiny dusting of powdery snow. Okay. Now, we're going to skip Gilman. He just tells us it was snowing a lot. I think this is a really helpful piece of footage. So this is the local news heard about what was happening, heard about the CERT team being out there doing their investigation, and went out to go get footage for the news. So this is actual footage from that night, how much snow there was. And you can see in this, there is no spot where they got all the way down to the pavement or all the way down to the grass. So going back to the fact that when Karen dropped John off, there was only a teeny tiny dusting of snow. None of the taillight was found where it would have been had there been a dusting.
We now know that the body of a man found outside a home in Canton is that of a Boston police officer. Officer John O'Keefe, who was off duty, was found dead on Fairview Road yesterday morning in front of a friend's house. State police were at the scene last night investigating this. At this point, it's not clear how he died. An autopsy is set for tomorrow. O'Keefe was a 16-year veteran of the Boston Police Department. The department released a statement on the death.
Okay, so there you can see them with their shovels. There's no spot where they get all the way down to the grass or the pavement. And apparently those shovels don't work over here. They only work over here. And yet somehow the CERT team found this clear piece of this is what they found that night. These are the 4 pieces they found that night. They found this clear diffuser, which we could do a whole nother stream about the diffuser's role in the taillight apparatus and how everything that they said about the light is lie. But we're not going to do that now. This little teeny tiny piece of 1 centimeter taillight. They found that. They found that little teeny tiny centimeter in this.
We now know that we're at the scene last.
Like, that is a miracle. That is, if I hid that and told you it was there, I don't know that you would be able to find it in the 10 minutes that they did. And yeah, they didn't have sifters. They didn't have like warming lamps. They just had their Home Depot shovel. They didn't even have a leaf blower for this. And they found that little teeny tiny piece of 1 centimeter taillight. The little taillight that could, exactly. And also in the dark, like it was dark, they found this piece that you can barely see in that picture. Okay, now are we getting the fact that we were lied to? Yeah. But now it was like the floodgates opened and it was like, we lied already, we can't stop, let's just keep on lying. And now they just go bananas. So this is from the Redemption Tour. Is this the same clip from before?
Of the witnesses in the case. Very early on, Alan Jackson told me that he could not understand why it was that every time that you went.
Yeah, we saw that already. So he keeps returning to the scene and keeps finding taillight.
Temperatures range from 30 to some. The more snow that melted, the more evidence unearthed itself.
Okay.
Understand.
Keeps unearthing itself. Okay. I made this for myself. It's going to be hard to see on here. I'm going to put it online. I'll link to it in the description. But basically, this is the weather over the next couple of weeks. So yes, there was a snowstorm on the 29th, and then it was cold and kind of still snow on the ground, but the snow started to melt. Overnight, this is important, from February 2nd to February 3rd, the overnight wind speed was 11 miles per hour, which is very windy. And yet, let's see what they find the next day after that very, very windy night on February 3rd. Oh no, not again.
Now, sir, were you working with the State Police Crime Scene Services section on February 3rd of 2022?
Yes, I was.
And where were you requested to go on that date?
I was requested to respond to an address in Canton.
And do you recall what that address was?
It was 34 Fairview.
And approximately what time did you arrive at that location on Fairview Road?
It was about 9:45 in the morning.
And who did you meet upon your arrival there?
I met with several members of the State Police Detective Unit for Norfolk County.
And do you recall specifically who those members of the State Police Detective Unit were?
Yes, there was Lieutenant Tully, Sergeant Buchanan, Trooper Proctor, Trooper DeChico, and Trooper Moore.
And when you arrived there, what were you asked to document on that occasion?
There was a search effort digging through some snowbanks that they were looking for some items. They wanted me to document it with photography.
Now, during that search effort, were items located and recovered?
Yes.
Now, can you describe for the jury the process of item recovery that you observed there on that day?
So once an item was excavated.
Now, sir, were you working with the state?
I would be alerted. I would come over. I would document the item in its place. And then one of the detectives would use a gloved hand, and that item would be bagged and documented on the bag.
Was that the same with respect to each item that was photographed by you and then bagged by the State Police Detective Unit?
Yes.
Now, if I could just ask you, if you could expound a little, when you say excavated, what do you mean by that? What did you see being done that day?
They were digging with shovels.
And as far as the items that were recovered, do you recall where they were in relation to the snow pile and the ground itself?
Some were on top of the snow. So there was some significant snow melt. I think that day it was raining out and it was much warmer than it was previous 3 days. So some had been revealed by this melted snow, so they were on top. Others were under a foot and a half of snow.
Okay, so that's Evan Brent, who kind of seemed like he didn't want to be there. And he tells us that some of the taillight was like on top of 3 feet of snow, and some was underneath it all the way down at the bottom. Yes. Okay. What else do they find that day?
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to February 3rd, 2022. At some point that morning, where did you go?
During the morning hours of February 3rd, we planned to meet at 34 Fairview Road. Myself, Trooper Proctor, and Trooper DeChico arrived at that location in order to conduct a secondary search of the area as the temperatures were turning and the snow was melting naturally. We decided to do another search for articles that were now, we realized and learned, were missing and could be of evidentiary value and aid in the, in the investigation.
And with respect to going to 34 Fairview Road, what, if any, tools or what, if anything, did you bring with you, you and the other troopers, in regard to conducting that secondary search?
I requested the troopers bring shovels, rakes, anything like gardening items that would help them to dig through the snow and locate any missing items.
And as far as the temperature change that you're talking about, how precipitous a change are we talking about?
The temperatures went above freezing, so the snow did begin to melt, and it was significantly warmer compared to the 18 degrees the night of the incident.
Now, you mentioned items of evidentiary value that you had learned of and were looking for. What, if any, clothing items of Mr. O'Keefe were you looking for specifically on February 3rd?
We were specifically looking for Mr. O'Keefe's baseball cap.
And in addition to yourself, Trooper Proctor and Trooper DeChico, who, if anyone else?
Okay, so they're looking for his baseball cap, and lucky for them, they found it. They also found a straw. Hold on. This is a picture from a local news story. Some of you guys might remember this. It's actually like a very odd situation, but at Zavarian Brothers on February 3rd, 2022, they started Black History Month by serving fried chicken. That was a very bad idea for them. They ended up on the news. But this is a live shot of the 10 minutes away in Westwood, just to kind of give you a picture of what they were searching. So the road now is like cleared. It's been driven on. Plows have gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and all the snow is kind of like pushed up and down the road, melted, and then piled up here in that picture. Those piles are from the way that they clear a parking lot. So that's not what 34 Fairview would look like. This over here, not this. So this is what they're searching. Okay. They found the straw. It's amazing. This is 29, 30 days has September, April, June, and November. So 31 days in January, 29, 30, 31, February 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 6 days later, the straw was there. Hold on. This is where the straw was.
Yes, it is.
And with respect, if I could turn your attention briefly to the following day of February 4th. Did you have occasion to go back to 34 Fairview Road on that day?
Yes, I did.
And what brought you to 34 Fairview Road on February 4th?
Oh, wait. No, sorry. We're not there yet. I guess I didn't. Wherever this clip is, he tells us that he finds the hat and the straw close to the paved berm on the street. Sorry if I couldn't find that clip. So yeah, 11 miles per hour winds, cars going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Just if you live in like a warm weather place, this is how plows work. So they push the snow. It's not like a snow blower that like takes the snow and then blows it onto the yard. The snow is being pushed up and down the road. So a straw that was somehow in the middle of the road stayed there. It's a miracle. It is truly, truly a miracle. Now, the miracles just keep coming because on February 4th, the next day, Berkowitz decides that he wants, like, I think he's already has his hand in everything, but now he wants to like really, like he's jealous that they all get to lie so much and he wants in on the lie. So let's see what happens on February 4th.
Yes, it is.
And with respect, if I could turn your attention briefly to the following day of February 4th. Did you have occasion to go back to 34 Fairview Road on that day?
Yes, I did.
And what brought you to 34 Fairview Road on February 4th?
Having excavated those items on the 3rd, I directed the troopers in my office, who obviously reside in the communities around us, to make a point to travel by that location every day on the way to work and every day on the way home. The purpose of that was to see if anything else was to reveal itself as the snow naturally melts away and items could present themselves. So
now, before we hear about like what a brilliant idea that was, I want you to just think about this for a second. Yuri Buchanan is not a Canton police officer. He is a Massachusetts state police officer. So he says that he directed all of his team to drive by Canton on the way to and from work. Like I need everybody to just picture that for a minute. Imagine your boss is like, hey, on the way to work, please go 30 minutes out of your way, 45 minutes. Like Tully lives in Hingham. Hingham, I don't know which barracks he works at, but going to Canton makes no sense. So he directs all of his officers to drive by 34 Fairview on the way to and from work. Berkowitz is not a Massachusetts state police officer. He did not get that directive. Berkowitz is the chief of police of the Canton Police, who were recused from this. But apparently he got the directive from the Massachusetts State Police to drive by to and from work on the 4th. or every day? Okay.
On the February 4th, as I am traveling to work, I diverted my typical route of travel to go by 34 Fairview Road. Just prior to my arrival, I received a call stating that there was Canton Police representatives at the scene, and more items have been revealed due to the melting snow, and that I should come collect those items. I was down the street. I arrived and collected the item that presented itself.
And if you recall, that item that you collected on February 4th, was that located on the lawn, on the street, or something else?
It was on the lawn.
Now, with reference to your collection of these items, either on February 3rd, February 4th, or on any sort of subsequent date, how were they collected, and what exactly did you do with them in reference to the...
Okay. Now, if I was teaching right now, I would be like, class, what did he say? Like, why was it easy for that taillight to have been spotted? Due to the melting snow. Okay, cool. Well, let's see. This is Chief Berkowitz, rest in peace. He wears glasses. He was driving by 34 Fairview, and he was able to see a piece of taillight on the lawn due to the melting snow. In fact, there's the piece right here that he saw. It is on top of a shoe print, a melted shoe print. So like that was weird anyways, but let's even ignore that for a little bit. He's driving by, he got a directive from another agency to look at the yard. He saw that, he called it in due to the melting snow. Well, okay, let's see what was happening on February 4th, 2022. Oh, there was a snowstorm. You want to know how I know that? Because the Massachusetts State Police say that they responded to well over 200 crashes because of the snowstorm. There was a snowstorm. It was like a snowy, rainy, disgusting storm. It was slippery. It was icy. It was a bad day. Boston public schools were closed. They weren't closed after January 29th, 2022, but they were closed on this day. But due to the melting snow, this bionic man saw a piece of taillight sitting on the grass, called it in, and thank goodness Yuri Buchanan was just around the corner on his way there. Huh. Oh, look, a poured edge in the driveway. Funny. Okay. So more items got revealed due to the melting snow. Now that picture, the picture in the middle, they did not claim, we actually don't have a date for that picture that I know of. So this middle picture is not from that date that I know of. But this picture on the right is the piece of taillight on top of a shoe print that Berkowitz did find that day. Okay.
Glass.
Now, in addition to the dates that you were present at 34 Fairview Road and recovered items, them being February 3rd, February 4th, and February 10th, were there other dates that you're aware of that items were recovered by troopers that you supervised?
Yes.
And if you recall, what were those dates?
The dates were January 29th, February 11th, and February 18th.
Were there items recovered on February 8th as well?
Yes.
Now, as far as your direction or having, let me first start with you. So on the dates that you were there, February 3rd, 4th, and 10th, were you alone on those dates? Or were there other troopers with you when you were there?
On the 4th, I was alone as far as state police personnel. There were other Canton law enforcement representatives at the scene with me as I collected that one item. On the other days, I was accompanied by other troopers.
And as far as you know, obviously not being present, but from your supervision of these troopers, were there other occasions where individuals were at 34 Fairview Road? Were they alone or were they with a group of troopers?
Objection. Sustained.
Now, as far as the items that were recovered
when you were there on February 3rd, February 4th, and February 10th. Did you have occasion to bring those items with you to court today?
Yes, I did.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
So I'm presenting you with a box.
Okay, then he just lies to us some more about the items that they found. This is, let's like really zoom in for this. Hold on. Whoopsies. Too much. Okay. This is Stoughton on February 10th, 2022. Yeah. Okay. This is from the Massachusetts State Police on February 14th, 2022. So there was not snow. I actually think that's from February 13th, but posted February 14th because according to my metadata, there was snow on the 14th. But it took them 3 additional searches after this one to find all the pieces of taillight. This is what we're working with. The snow is melting. You also don't need, like, I need to make this part really clear. You don't need all the snow to be gone here to find something underneath it. So like if there was a piece of red taillight that you were looking for and it was underneath this, you could see it, you could find it, you could get it. That snow doesn't need to be gone for you to be able to see it. As you can see, snow and ice become translucent as they start to melt. And also, just so you know, I know that Melanie Little is going live in a couple minutes, and I wanted to try to plan this so that I could send you right over to her after. And I just have one more live for today. I think we're going to have to do a part 2 on this because there's so much more. But we haven't even gotten to Proctor lying yet. So here we go.
Subsequent dates following February 3rd, specifically February 8th, 11th, and 18th. Did you have occasion to return to 34 Fairview Road on those days?
I did.
And you had mentioned a little bit about sort of changes in the weather. What, if anything, sort of evolved as far as the weather was concerned between the dates of February 3rd when you were there and February 8th, 11th, and 18th?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the weather pattern had kind of fluctuated from 30 degrees up to 60 degrees with a handful of days of heavy rain mixed in. So that caused a lot of snow to melt as well.
And with respect to each of those respective days of February 8th, 11th, and 18th, what, if anything, did you observe or recover, you and the other troopers that were present on those days?
Yeah, there's further evidence that was originally buried under the snow because of the warm temperature and the rain and the snow melting kind of revealed itself. More pieces of plastic, clear and red.
Now, with respect to the residents at 34 Fairview Road, each of these times that you were at the residence, including February 3rd, where in relation to the house were these items observed and recovered by you and the other troopers on those respective days?
So if you're looking at 34 Fairview, looking at the front of the house, it's to the left side of the property, between like the flagpole and kind of the fire hydrant in that general area, the front and left of the property.
Now,
Okay, so just to kind of tie that all up, Tully went the evening of the 29th and he found a 1 centimeter little piece of taillight on top of a snowbank in the road. The 3 other pieces that were found that night were all in the road. Then all the rest of the pieces were all found in the exact location where John's body was found on the lawn. No pieces were missing. They found it all. They found that teeny tiny piece of taillight on the 29th, but it took Michael Proctor until February 18th. So there's now 2 additional snowstorms, and then the snow melted, and then it was grass, and then it was snow again, and then it was grass, and then it was snow again. It took him, so like here's the 13th or the 14th, I'm going to say the 13th. He did 2 additional searches after that until he found all of these pieces. Berkowitz found this piece in a shoe print in a snowstorm from his car driving by. And that concludes for me part 1 of Flake News. Any questions? I'm so happy to like get this out of my head and to have you guys do with this information what you do best, which is dive into it and tear it all apart and expose everybody, because this is ridiculous. Like this needs to come out in the civil trial or the House Defendants, whatever is happening. Like, they can't just keep getting away with this. This is ridiculous. I feel great. I finally got it out. Zach said, saying hi before I go offline for the rest of the year. Zach, I know. How will you? I don't know if I believe him. How will you survive without me? Do your best. Happy holidays to you and your family. That's actually very sad to me if Zach's not going to be here. He's very entertaining. And thank you, Sarah, for becoming a member. Literally nothing makes me happier than when you guys become members, because it really makes me feel like I'm like really doing this. And I just appreciate you all so much. I did it. I got these ideas out of my head. Thank you all for listening. I timed it great. So I'm going to end this now, and I'm going to send you to Melanie. But, and I never even say this, but like, share this, like this, blow this up, because I want the truth to be out there, and it's driving me crazy that it's just been living in my head for so long. So thank you for doing that. When I end this, it should send you to Melanie. You guys are the best.
John Keefe was 46 years old. Psst, Peg, time to cry, because remember, oopsies, you thought he was 45. John Keefe was not a buffalo on the prairie. When I was a kid, I used to throw boulders off of bridges. Ah, what a thrill. The dater is the dater. And tonight, I'm going on a dater with Shannon Welcher. We have no idea how the collision happened, but if you have any doubts left, remember this. My best friend, Jen McCabe, said Bella's mom. Of course Karen hit him. Speaking of Jen McCabe, she's a soccer mom. She doesn't use Signal like Arca. She keeps everything right out in the open, like how long until John dies in the cold. Didn't need Michael Proctor. Tully is our Uber driver now. As the trial ends, we remember Barrows lied not, Kelly Dever. I know our times changed to whatever, but cops can't solve crime in bad weather.